Hello and welcome to another episode of Untitled KKP Show, the show where we talk about video games in Malaysia and maybe some news here and there. Maybe I'll open up the docket and just list out some stuff, but for now, I think we got quite a bit of a backlog that we need to get through. It's close to the end of 2025. I figured we'd just get some reviews out that aren't embargoed yet. Pop. I figured. We got a couple, in fact, I actually didn't mention last week after we did our Game Awards predictions and snubs video where we're supposed to talk about some games. So let's do that right now. So, first up, we have Road to Empress, which is a visual novel adventure style game that came out for PC and mobile. I think it came out for mobile. I only played the PC version. I got the code way at September during Tokyo Game Show. Finally got around to it around November, like a couple of months later. I played about a couple of hours of it. I got through quite a number of chapters. So this game has you playing as a Chinese emperor's courtesan in a particular feudal period in China, where women are treated more as property than anything. So they're in the palace, you've got a lot of intrigue happening, a lot of backstabbing as well, because there are some courtesans who are trying to one-up each other to become the head princess for the king, for the prince to wed and whatnot, among his harem, basically. So you're part of the harem, and we really have to survive. And I must say, looking at the art and presentation, it is very well made, very well talentedly made. I actually did interview the director for the game itself, and she shared quite a bit of insight, particularly about how the process is, how many scenes they have to create just to create particular decisions and storylines in the branching paths. It's insane. There's a lot of work being put in here. And it's actually done, if you have seen on TV2, on RTM, on Malaysian and Singaporean television, the China Justice Power, those TV shows, this is what you're getting in video game form, except in a more bright 80s, 90s, lavishly kind of setting with the lighting and whatnot. It's just done in a way that is very reminiscent of the 90s adventure game period, the full motion video kind of thing. So we have this patch doing the animated stuff with the storytelling, and then you've got Road to Empress, which is doing the live action full motion ordeal that channeling the 90s. And does it work? It does, because they create a lot of the branching paths and decisions you make, they all lead to death, I think. And when you play a Sierra game, all you're interested about is seeing how the main character dies. In Road to Empress, you want to see what crazy deaths and shenanigans your main character goes through. And there'll be a lot of involvement of poisoning, especially, and branding and saying the wrong thing, speaking out of turn, and then you actually end up going to jail. So the way to survive in this imperial court is to pick a side, double back on your promises, be sly about it, and be ruthless. I don't know what kind of message it's trying to promote, but it's very entertaining to say the least. So I give this, again, the production's great, the voice work, everything, it's also top notch. And what it's trying to do is, again, you also get to keep track of your storyline branching path, and you also get to replay bits, especially when you want to move forward with the chapters and everything. So everything is all done intuitively. I don't see any really major issues. Like, it's all well made so far for what it's worth, and it's about RM28, RM30 when you pay upfront. That should be the price. It is RM29. You get to buy like the base game, props, and blooper packs, so you get to see outtakes. Really, really, really cool. Really well done. So all in all, I give this a solid 7 out of 10, 70 out of 100. It's so far. Again, this is the kind of game where you have to be in that particular mindset of adventure gaming and get into the whole playing a courtesan, courting young princesses, and also backstabbing them kind of storyline and situation. and all done with very high production values and charging and getting charged like RM30, close to RM30 for it. That's pretty awesome. I mean, normally you pay like what, US 50 or US 60 for it, but I'm glad I'm paying that much. I think it's regional pricing at play, which is great. So yeah, hats off to the developer New One Studio for this pretty awesome work. So yeah, 70 out of 100. Really, really good stuff. I will put up the open critic review. I'll put up the written review as soon as we get our website up in order. At this point in time, we're having some bit of an issue, so that's why I guess part of why we're doing the video in the first place, just to get some voice work out there, get some content out there while some things are down. Doing some bit of migration here and there. Alright, next up is Where Winds Meet. This is an action RPG I played the early copy of it, the early access preview for it. I played up until the first chapter. This game came out on the 15th of November. I played it on the first week of that. I played on the November 10, 11, around there. And then I played the second, after I made a new account, I played through the second chapter. Lots of good action going on, a lot of open world stuff. So this is an action game, action RPG in the veins of your Assassin's Creed Shadows, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Ghost of Yote. That kind of action RPG kind of structure where you get to check out the open world, do multiple quests, and go through the main quests. It's you play as a guy who's trying to find out all of his new martial art moves from different provinces in ancient China. And this is in the Wuxia period, so you learn a lot of fancy flying moves. You get to air dash, you get to do a landing ground thing, and you've got many different styles of attacks, ranging from like double swords to twin blades to rope darts to parasol umbrella attacks to spears and giant sword swings and whatnot. Really cool stuff. In fact, halfway in the first chapter, you get a preview of which martial art style you want to go first. You'll have to unlock all eventually, and that is the quest of the game, but you get to actually pick which one you want to target. So I went for the double blades because that's actually within the starting province, and then when you get to the next city in the second chapter, that's when you can unlock more and more moves and more fighting styles. There's even some cool segments where you not only have to fight through most battles, you also got to do puzzles, you also got to solve simple carrying blocks to one part of the pressure plate kind of puzzles. You also get to sneak around as well to acquire some of these special moves or even complete a quest. There are even instances where you actually have to put on a disguise. I think that's introduced in the second chapter. You gotta paint someone from far away, and then you gotta go to the shop. The shop will make the disguise for you, and then you get to use that disguise for a limited set time. And yeah, that's pretty cool. A lot of inventive stuff you get to go through. I think my only major issue is this game is online always. It has that MMO thing where you do an action, you gotta do the action, and then you see like a cooldown bar, and you gotta wait for it to fill up, and then the action is done. Any interruption, you gotta start the activity all over again. But for now, I like how the action is proceeding. I like the storyline. It gets pretty dark pretty quick. So you actually meet up with a village, and then you gotta meet up with all these people who are friends of the village. You go out, do your questing, and then you gotta evacuate the village, and bad stuff happens. It gets really dark, let's just say that. This game also doesn't shy away from killing children. I'll tell you that. Yeah, they go all out in terms of starting really strong so that you actually get to your quests. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this dark early storytelling since Bravely Default 2. I mean, I know some older games that do this, but in terms of like something recent, a lot of these games are pretty happy-go-lucky, and they resolve everything at the end. When Winds Meet, they do start the story really strong and really dark too, as soon as you finish that last chapter, if you finish the first chapter. So I can't wait to continue on with this. This game is free to play, amazingly, so something as packed as an online Assassin's Creed or Ghost of Tsushima style kind of game. Ride horses, do fighting, do parrying. It's pretty cool they do all this in the free-to-play package. I think the stuff you buy are all cosmetics as far as I know. And you got a battle pass too, where if you do a bunch of quests within a limited amount of time, you get to hit those battle pass check notes. You get to unlock special stuff that you paid money for. So where winds meet is really interesting. I do like where, again, there's solid production values from NetEase and Everstone Studios, the developers, a lot of detailing and nice voice work from the Chinese side and even the English dub side. Yeah, not bad. The mouths don't match, but that's just what you expect from video game dubbing anyway these days. Really fun to play, I'd say, and you got like skills that actually help you out, from stealth to even Tai Chi throwing big monsters off the cliff and shit. And there's even like some requirements, especially when you get to dungeons where they nerf all your power set, because it just tells you, oh, that's a strange mysterious aura, you can't use your moves, because they don't want you breaking the game really quick, because you can triple jump and you can do all these Tai Chi throws and pinpoint strikes and stealing things from afar, so they gotta nerf you somehow. So these special dungeons just nerf you purposely because they want you to use what remaining skills you have remaining, you know, that you're restricted to. So definitely a good open world game. You don't switch characters, you switch fighting styles, so and you get to upgrade them as you see fit and collect weapons and weapon sets as per an action RPG standard, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Shadows, and to an extent Ghost of Yotei. I'd say this would be the China Ghost of Yotei, China Assassin's Creed game, but less on the stealthing, more on the fighting and the wuxia fighting, and you get to ride a horse, you get to check out open worlds. Again, not a fan of the MMO style bars where you got to fill it up while you're doing an action, but I guess that's how you gotta do it when you're doing a pure online game, right? I'd say this is a easy solid 70 out of 100. Closer to an 80. I think this game, should this game have been a paid product? I don't know. I don't think you'll actually get as many people supporting it or playing it online if it was just an offline kind of game. But at least we know that this game is going to come out in increments of chapters and getting updated as the months go by, and also next year. Okay, a couple of games, maybe from the indie side of things. We've been talking about like big budget stuff. Possessors is a Metroidvania created by Heart Machine. It has a lot of promise. I've played through the game for about 14 hours after going through a hurdle that wasn't explained properly. I got a move, a grappling hook, and apparently the grappling hook can pull down hold walls. They did not mention this or explain this properly in the game's tutorials. You play as a girl named Luca. You get possessed by a demon, and because of the possession, you actually have to work together with the demon, and then you find out more about the story, about the world that you're in. I like the plot. You get to find out more about Luca and the predicament, because she's a girl brought around by her mom, working in the corporation that actually caused this demon uprising and the explosion in the first place, and you gotta find a way out. And you gotta help the demon find a way out, and then you get to keep the new legs that you get after you exploded and shit. And you gotta find out how your friend died as well, and it turns out that there's actually a bit of a harrowing discovery as you go forward. And the demon that possessed you, Reese Riot, well, that demon, they're all pretty demons, and get a lot of people thirsty for a lot of things here and there. So yeah, people are probably making fan art for this character. Yeah, I really wish I could say anything else positive. I guess the fighting is okay until you realize how janky it gets. Like when you jump, normally when you make a Metroidvania, your arc is preserved when you attack. Here, when you do any attack, your arc stops and then you fall down straight, and then your attack has a bit of a recovery in between. So you gotta be careful how you attack. But once you get to the flow state when you do combos, yeah, it gets really fun. It's just that controls in this game get a bit awkward. It takes a while to get used to. The art style is great and all, but a lot of the levels seem very uninspired. You've got docks, you've got like warehouses, you've got like dark, dilapidated city areas here and there. The boss fights are pretty fun once you get the hang of the combat and the controls, but again, there's a bit of a learning curve and getting through the fact that it's not as smooth a game as Heart Machine makes you think it is. Compare that to Solar Ash. That's a very smooth game. And then Hyperlight Drifter was alright too. It had its own restrictions, but it was still fun to play. And then when you play Possessors, it just feels like they're just trying something new for the sake of trying something new. And it's a valiant effort, and A for effort, but again, C for results. I mean, that's just basically what a startup is. They have their heart in the right place, or you know, like people who overachieve and then they don't have much skill. They promise a lot, they overachieve, they have high ambition, but their skill level all the way down. They're not the best. It's Possessors is basically a kind of like a failed. I won't say it's a complete failure. It still feels fun. I finished through it and it's actually okay in some places, but okay isn't gonna cut it in a landscape on the PC or a console landscape filled with so many Metroidvanias like your Hollow Knights or the next game I'm gonna talk about in a couple minutes or so. So all in all, Possessors, it gets a 60 out of 100. It is definitely a product labor of love, but it just feels incomplete and less thought out compared to Solar Ash and Hyperlight Drifter. I know this indie studio can do a lot better, and with the stuff that's been happening behind the scenes with this company, I don't know if this may be their last game, for all you know. This may be their last game. Yeah, I think their final stand comes out a bit of like a mediocre kind of title, which is really sad. Yeah. Demonschool. That's the other big game I played. A big indie game from Yisbird and Necrosoft. The game itself is an RPG, isometric combat, turn-based isometric game. It is actually reminiscent of your Personas back in PlayStation 1, Shin Megami Tensei, when it was called Revelations Persona. That kind of perspective. And the combat is turn-based. You play a student named Faye, and you team up with a reluctant student named Namako as they get stuck on an island where they learn college stuff and whatnot. They're being drafted. And it turns out that there's actually a demon conspiracy going on. And off goes Namako, Faye, and a couple of others, Destin, Newt, and a couple of others as they team up, fight all the weird stuff that's happening. I mean, there's even references to like stuff like The Ring, where you gotta basically find this tape that kills its owner within 3 days upon watching it and whatnot, and you gotta fight the spirit that possesses the tape. It becomes a giant VHS TV monster. That's pretty cool. The design for the bosses, so combat itself, like you don't gain stats, but you gain power-ups that you can learn and equip. And all battles are very puzzly and very turn-based, very, very puzzle-like. You basically have character Faye herself. You can actually, whenever enemies are in a row, you get to hit them all in a row. You can also sidestep in the same turn to do an attack. If you consecutively attack, you use up more action. You use up more turn icons. You basically are given like 8 or 10, and you have 3 to 4 characters. And the more you use the same character, the more turns they eat up. So when they move and attack, that's 1 turn. You do the same action, that's 2, and then 3 and 4, and so forth and so forth. So you kind of need to split. You gotta split duties so that you can use as little turns as you can. And you also got characters who get to Namako. She can stun enemies and replace their positions, and you can push them. So you can actually arrange them for Faye to knock them down. And you got characters like Newt who can heal. They can't attack unless you give them a particular specific power up. They can debuff enemies. But generally they can heal the characters, and when they're at full health, they can give them +1 attack. So you can power up Faye to actually hit harder. And as you get on further into the game, you actually get more characters like Mercy and Pangji, and further on, Kestrel and a couple of others. A lot more twists and turns pop up. You get to fight other creative bosses, because all the bosses are actually laid out in like a puzzle kind of way. So you fight a boiler room enemy, and your objective is to hit 3 different valves at 3 different areas, and so that you can make the center boiler pop up, and you get to attack that in the next turn. Other fights are creative. You got like a giant monster chasing you down. You actually got the You have mines popping up from the floor and from the sky. You got to use your characters, any character, doesn't matter if it's a healer or an attacker. You get to push the mines into the monster's mouth. So when you push it, it'll go through one straight line. So really cool way of implementing battles. Very challenging as well. And when the going gets tough, there's accessibility mode that lets you not take damage. I mean, you can still die somehow by getting pushed off a cliff, but generally you can basically not take damage. So if the going gets tough, and especially when you get through a lot of the game's filler, where it goes through each day of the week, I think you basically play through 14 weeks. You got to go through each day of the week, and most of these weeks are peppered with like fights that actually get you to the hang of things, or filler boss fights where you get to win equipment and money to upgrade your camp, or upgrade or buy different spells that you can learn and study that you can equip onto your characters. While the prospect and everything and the structure and the flow of the game's great, I think the only thing that prevents me from giving it like a full score, it's a really fun game. It's still kind of buggy, especially at the last third, where I go through a gauntlet of fights and then all of a sudden the enemies don't act at all. I think the game stuck to that state for like 5 minutes until I had to restart the entire game. But then when I come back to it, the battle just went on just fine. So I think there's a bit of an issue when you play through the game like through long stretches. So you may need to save, get out, restart, and then come back in again, and then battles are okay from there. I think that's only my hotfix right now. I like the vibes of the game itself. It's kind of chillax when you're going, especially when you're going through the weekend. You got some of the dialogue that gets humorous, especially given the predicament of the game's world, where a lot of people are losing their memories, and you have to find out why is that correlating to all the demons popping up on the island you're on. And a lot of humor here and there, and very quaint kind of stuff going on. Kind of reminds me of like if a Western studio were to do a Persona game. And I do believe Necrosoft and Usbird, they should try to make some sort of like they probably are trying to get that with Sega or Atlas. Maybe they can do a Persona-like spin-off. New characters created by the people helming Atlas, and then they're letting Necrosoft do the work. I think that would be a good badge of honor for these kind of projects, because I look at Demonschool, it's basically an Americanized style Persona 1 game with better combat. If anything, the slog from the previous 90s PS1 games are taken away. And I do like how all fights go by really quick. I mean, the bugs do get in the way, but beyond that, I think there's a lot of promise with Demonschool. I kind of wish this game actually made it to the cutoff time for, nominating this game, because this has good, this would be like a best indie kind of like nomination kind of deal. Really cool stuff. I give this a 90 out of 100. The review is up on our website when it gets back online after the migration and everything. So do check out the review. Let's see what else we got. I guess the last game we got on our docket is definitely Constance. So this is another Metroidvania 2D game. I actually checked this out last year, so I decided to just wait until the developers are done with the game. They're done. The game is coming out, I think by the time this podcast is out, this video is out, you actually get to see the review for this. So Constance is a 2D, again, like I said, it feels really good to play. It is very Hollow Knight-esque in terms of like controls and combat. In fact, when you do an attack, you get pushed back a bit. I don't know why they put that in. I think they're just, I know it makes sense for a game like Hollow Knight to have its own niche, but for Constance, I don't know why they have to push back. But it does help in, me doing combos when I'm doing attacks from the air. So you play a artist who ends up warped into this world, and you gotta find a way out. A very colorful yet kind of dark world. You got a lot of trash, and you got a lot of robots, and all different sorts of enemies and circus acts attacking you. And you basically gotta get out of your headspace. And then as you complete each, you actually have a bunch of tiers you gotta collect, and you gotta collect it around the map. With each tier you collect, you get to reveal a bit of Constance's history and her past, and why she is facing through, why the game actually warns you at the start, why you get the burnout and mental health issues. And they do a great job at tackling and talking about it in not words, just text messages and you picking up on the story. I do like how that goes on and on and on. In terms of the actual gameplay itself, it's your standard Metroidvania fare. It is very creative, and I like the puzzling challenges. I like the platforming in this. It tests all your abilities. So Constance can air dash. You actually get that at the start. You go through like barricades as you air dash. You can also climb walls later. You also get a pogo stick attack. And you got like this attack that lets you do a dash slash. When you see like in special grapple places, you can do a dash attack upwards, a dash slash, and you get to do that onto enemies and certain grappling points. There are a lot of platforming bits here and they're involving like you going through the motions. There are chase sequences as well. Reminds you of Ori as well, Ori Will of the Wisp. You get to actually get dash through things here and there. You chase sequences, you've got like platforming segments, runbacks to bosses, yeah, a lot of that. They're bits and pieces of Hollow Knight. But unlike Hollow Knight, when you open up breakable objects, they give you hearts back. You get to refill your health, and you actually can take more than 3 hits to get through the game. And whenever you get killed, if you want to, you either start back at your checkpoint, or you can actually start back at the exit, at the last place you entered from the room. But enemies get powered up, so they get hit. You have to hit them a bit more than usual. So I believe that's a good trade-off, especially for a game like Constance, where it emulates Hollow Knight, but it makes it more inviting, a lot more less oppressive, and a lot more. It is still fun. And shorter as well, because as Hollow Knight is about like what, 20 hours plus to get all the endings, or maybe 30 or 40, 50. Constance, you can get one ending within like 5 hours or so. It gives you all the cliff notes of a Hollow Knight style Metroidvania stage action game, but becomes its own thing because of the characters and the world you're in, and its message is trying to pull off. Really, really cool stuff. I'm giving it an 80 out of 100. I like the controls, the attacks and all that. Still very derivative, but I think its story and the way it presents itself makes up for everything. It stands out on its own that way.